Welcome again to Joan TV Media. It's always a pleasure to have you with me, and I'm so happy and thankful that you are subscribing, liking, and sharing my videos. If you are new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. As always, I ask that you subscribe, like, and share these videos. Enough respect. Thank you. So listen up on where you are coming from and show some gratitude to our ancestors. Today I'm doing slavery in Guyana. The history of Guyana began with the arrival of the nomads from Asia about 35 years ago. The migrants became the Caribs and the Arawak Indians. During the colonial period, Guyana's economy was focused on agriculture. As the agricultural productivity of the Dutch continues to increase, there was a shortage in labor, the indigenous population, and many people died from disease introduced by the Europeans. The Dutch West Indies Company turned to the importation of slaves from Africa. By 1660, the slave population numbered about 2,500, the number of indigenous people estimated at 50,000. It was said that the first group of African slaves were brought by Dutch settlers who migrated from Tobago from as early as the 17th century. As plantation expanded on the coast of Guyana, more slaves were brought from West Africa in ships owned by the West India Company. There were times too when planters brought slaves smuggled from West India by the English traders. Some of the ships arrived at the Berbice, Essequibo, and the Demerara port. Planters came from all over at the auction sale to find bargains. The slaves were exposed naked and were closely examined by the buyers to determine if they were healthy. The people were made to jump, swing their arms and legs so that they could properly examine. The human beings were treated like common farm animals. Sometimes an entire family were auctioned, and the buyers showed no concern over family bonds, which separated husbands, wives, and children. Although enslaved Africans were considered an essential element of the colonial economy, their working conditions were brutal on the plantations. The slaves were housed in buildings which were some distance from their masters' houses. The slaves' houses were walls of old boards, a thatched roof, and some of them made of wattle and mud. The floor was earth itself. The work day of the people began before daybreak. They would march to the fields by slave drivers who controlled them with whips. Now the slave drivers were slaves themselves, who were chosen by the white plantation owners. The overseers who supervised the entire operation would be a white man. When working in the fields, the Africans were occasionally beaten by the slave drivers if they attempt to stop work. They would work until 8 in the evening. But unfortunately, for those who work in the sugar mill, they were forced to work long hours. They had so many different ways to punish the slaves. If a slave hit a white man, his hand would be cut off. Whipping was the most common form of punishment, and this was inflicted liberally and in the most gruesome form. The whipping was done by slave drivers under the watchful eyes of the overseers sometimes. Sometimes the victim was beaten to death. Every Sunday, each adult slave would receive a pound of saltfish by the plantation owner. A child would receive a smaller portion. On some Christian holidays, there was an additional pound of beef or pork and some sugar. Once a year, the slaves were given some clothing. The men would receive a coarse woolen jacket, a hat, about 6 yards of cotton, and a piece of canvas to make their pants. Women would receive the same, but the children got none. They would remain naked until they were about 9 years old, or they were given used clothes that their parents would manage to find. The mortality rate was high. The dismal condition of the slaves led to more than half a dozen rebellions led by enslaved Africans. The main concern of the white plantation owner was to get more and more labor from the poor African people. No effort was made to improve the slaves' way of living. The conditions worsened with more brutal punishment inflicted upon them by their owners. Some of the people would rebel, while sometimes some would run away into the forest. Those that were captured would receive death as punishment. Some of the slaves in Berbice would escape over into Suriname, where they joined up with the Bush Negro colonies. In 1762, a small rebellion of about 36 men and women slaves happened in Berbice. The slaves' rebellion was repressed by a strong force of Dutch militia. But just a few years later, on the 23rd of February 1763, a well-organized revolt happened. This uprising became the Berbice Rebellion. It broke out at a plantation on the upper Congo River in Berbice. African rebels taking control of the region as plantations after plantations fell to the enslaved Africans. They burnt down the owners' houses. They moved the population as far as the quarantine to get support from other slaves. The rebellion was organized as fighting force by Koffee. They burned buildings and cane fields and killed a number of white men and women. They fought their way up towards the capital of Berbice River. They seized gunfire and guns belonging to the white plantation owners. The whites run for refuge on ships in the Berbice port at Fort Nassau, Fort St. Andrews, and some through the forest of Demerara. After some negotiations, the rebels agreed to allow the whites to leave and depart on their way in the main river. But as they were leaving, Koffee and his men opened fire on them, killing many of them, and took some as prisoners. One of the prisoners was the wife of one of the white owners, whom Koffee took as his wife. The rebel group accepted Koffee as their rebel leader, and Koffee declared himself governor of Berbice. The defeat opened a division among the rebels and weakened their organization. Akara became the leader of a new gang opposed to Koffee and led to a civil war among themselves. When Akara group won the war, Koffee was captured and killed by the Dutch. Slavery was abolished in Guyana in 1834. The anniversary of Koffee's slave rebellion, 23rd February, has been a Republic Day in Guyana. Since 1970, a monument was put in the square of Georgetown, the capital. Thanks for listening. If you don't yet subscribe, please do like and share. Thank you very much.